of our chief guest and main speaker for the evening, Antara. She is an award-winning independent journalist and editor, and founder-editor of the Little magazine, the independent journal of ideas and letters published on Delhi. She is also a columnist, literary critic, and translator. She is a commentator on the media, society, politics, culture, and development. She is or has earlier been a columnist for the Asian Age, the Deccan Chronicle, the Week, the Indian Express, the Hindustan Times, Daily News and Analysis, City.com, Free Press Journal, the Bengal Post, and Bangla Live, among other publications. She has worked as senior editor of the Hindustan Times and of the Indian Express in Delhi. She started her journalistic career with Anand Bazar Patrika's Sunday magazine in Calcutta. Sen was a Reuters Fellow at Oxford University. Her undergraduate and graduate studies were at Jadavpur University, Calcutta, and Smith College, USA. She is involved with or is advisor to various media, literary, educational and voluntary organizations in India and overseas. Okay, that's it. So right now we have with us Prakash Kamat, who is the senior correspondent of Hindu, Shruti Pandit, who is running the Goa Times, editor of Goa Times, Antara, and I will be there also because I have been a journalist for like 35 years. But I've been a development journalist. So. And I think who will be moderating this? I think let's. Why don't you Jose moderate?
Yeah, Prakash.
You moderate. Okay, I'll moderate this. Okay, so let's start with Antara. Seeing the present situation now, the media, we've been in the media for such a long time. Let's start with the very cliched thing. What do you feel is happening today? What do you see is happening with the media today? The topic that we have for today is it a functioning media? Okay, so now do you think that
Does it function the role it's supposed to?
Is the fourth state functioning? Is it playing the role that it is supposed to be playing?
Well, you know, the media is functioning, you can't deny it. And is it playing the role that it is supposed to be playing? To a large extent, yes. However, we all have different expectations from the media, especially if you have been a committed media person, then you expect more from the media, and therefore you feel that it probably has not been functioning as well as it should. About that other question, is it a functioning fourth estate? Well, it's just the fourth. Let's look at the first three. Are they functioning as well as they should? The executive, the government is full of scams and corruption charges and all of that. The legislature, the parliament is full of disruptions. You hardly have any parliamentary debate. You have horse trading, you have even bribery. The judiciary. Okay. What's happening? People saying hello to us. The judiciary, which is the third estate, is also not functioning as well as it should. There are charges of corruption. It's very slow, it hardly moves, one is losing faith in it as well. So only after these three do we come to the media as the fourth estate. And yes, the media is also not functioning as well as it should. And if you are looking at them, and not as estates, but if you look at it as a fourth pillar of democracy, then all these four pillars are supposed to hold up democracy in a way that makes us comfortable. But what basically is happening is that they are just holding it up willy-nilly, although they are all eaten away from the inside because of self-interest, corruption, you know, all kinds of indulgence. And media happens to be one of the four just doing exactly that.
Prakash, she says that the three pillars are not functioning. and media is the fourth pillar. Now tell me, according to you, is it just, do you think it's justified just because the three other pillars are not working? Do you think the fourth pillar also should not work?
No,
which is supposed to oversee the other three pillars?
I would rather, as you said, rather I would say that all the more it is important that media should be functioning more assertively. Unfortunately, that is not happening. According to me, when I see this according to me, if you see the first three, you said executive, judiciary and legislature, by very days of democracy, they are not supposed to be mobilizing revenue for themselves. It is only the media which has the legal ways to mobilize revenue for its sustenance. But I feel the biggest fraud has started here. It is this function where media has taken it over seriously and it is getting into business obsession of profits. That is the bigger problem which is affecting the media today. That is what I feel. And this obsession, this is one. So if we see the media over the period in this country, we have seen media from Gandhiji's time, when it was a medium for communicating to the masses. From then onwards, nation building. Then came liberalization, and there media is one of the biggest beneficiaries of liberalization. From there only, this aspect of more you put capital, more you earn profit. So this obsession with profits by investing more and capitalizing on the technological advancement which media benefited, then communication boom, then transport all this, what has happened is more and more it has become a business orientation. And there lies the problem. This is one aspect. Second aspect, I feel that ownership of media is a bigger concern today. It is not only confined to the capitalist, it is going towards political ownership. All the more this becomes important because the space for independent views and objective news is shrinking. And especially with political, during elections we have seen all kinds of aberrations like paid news. What exactly that means? Media should have been on the side of the people to fight the onslaught of money in the elections. But unfortunately, many of us are joining the moneyed candidates and political parties. So this kind of problems media is invited on its side. Unfortunately, I feel at a time when other pillars of democracy were not effectively functioning, media should have been more assertive. Instead of that, it has been joining them in their decline and defeat.
I agree with you, Prakash. Now, coming to Shruti, one of the major roles of the media is...
That is easier to pass on.
One of the major roles of the media, of course, the social responsibility aspect is there. And the media is there to inform, educate, and entertain, in that order. So, and now with commercialization being the bottom line, what do you have to say? Has the media lost its priorities?
I think it is not just the media who has lost the priorities. I think we have just lost the plot. It is not priorities of the media or priorities of any state particularly. We have suddenly have had access to too much. There are too much of choice on everything. There is choice of media. We didn't have internet. We didn't have television. Now you can read or get access to news on your cell phones. So too much of everything has probably created confusion. So there is no priority here. Whatever I get first becomes my priority.
That is the audience you're talking about. What about the media itself?
Yeah. So the media has reacted to it. That's what I was coming from. That because the mental setup of all human beings have changed in India, because I think everywhere else it grows, the computers developed slowly. We got it immediately. And suddenly there's a lot of choice, there's a lot of things happening, there's everything happening, so whatever I get first becomes my first priority. I want to be first. First in reading news, first in knowing which film went to the Oscars, first in seeing the film, first day, first show. I think this whole mental setup is being reflected in the media. Plus entertainment, I know what you're trying to say, so let me come to the point what you're trying to hint at. Yes, entertainment has become a priority in the media, which shouldn't be. I agree with you on that. But it has become. But at the same time, I think we have people who are breaking news, who are promoting Anna Hazare, but with so many channels and so many newspapers, and everybody wants to be one up. And that's probably the reason that a kid falling into the well can be a prime time news for 72 hours on all channels. Exactly. So we have lost the plot. It is not question of priorities. We have just lost the plot.
Antara, coming to you. Do you think what she's saying, do you think the media has the right to lose the plot? Or is it there to guide and give you the plot?
I don't think the media has lost the plot. I completely disagree.
No. I'm doing it is not the media.
It is not the media. I'm saying everybody has lost the plot.
The media is plotting to silence me as well. It has not lost the plot at all.
Okay, there you go. No, the media has not lost the plot. The media is plotting further. And the media's plot is what plots the rest of our lives. When you say that people have lost it, people will say me first, people, basically you're talking about aspirations. What created those aspirations? It was an aspirational media that created those aspirations. Right. Who creates those values? Media creates those values. While I totally agree with you that media reflects what is on the ground, I must also remind you that media goes both ways. Media creates and then reflects. So media is not as passive as you're making it out to be. Media is a very active agent in social change. And having acted, it can't sit back and say, oh, really? So you only want to see Kareena Kapoor? Fine, I'll give you Kareena Kapoor only. You can't do that. You can't be a mom or a father and say, oh, well, what can I do? My child only wants hamburgers. Why does your child only want hamburgers? Why haven't you taught your child to eat dal, sabzi, chawal? So that is also the role of the media. You can't just say, I'm sorry, I'm just giving them what they want. Okay, so that's where I disagree.
Okay.
I would also tend to agree. I just want to use the case study of the UK here. You have a perfect example of a sophisticated, it's created the English language there, of a media space which has been purposefully degraded by corporate interests. And newspapers like The Sun and other tabloids now dominate, and you had this very robust media environment, the UK after all, right? You had this critical culture. But it's been horrifically degraded, and the culture has also, politics have been, it's become completely manipulated to the point when you had this famous election when I think when John Major beat, completely improbably came back and beat the Labour, I forget who this, it was a Scottish guy at that time. The Sun actually boasted, it was the Sun what did it. That was the headline. So it's a completely naked kind of degradation, manipulation of democracy by media. And I think you actually see what troubles me in India today with the coming in of corporate interests into the media is you see exactly this. You see less of the trusts, the NGOs, the kind of organically grown small newspaper which becomes a big newspaper kind of thing. You don't see that anymore, and you see corporate coming in. And in Goa, I would like to say, this is one particular example of a horrifically degraded media space where you have everything is a corporate interest, or very much a bottom line interest. You have you had every kind of abuse, from plagiarism to paid news to a subversion of political agenda play out here extremely nakedly. You don't have any kind of independent media, no independent watchdog in any media. It's a particularly bad case here. And I really would, I also, not to pile on you on this one, but I would very strongly object to the idea that that's what the consumer wants. It's not what the consumer wants. The consumer is being purposely stiffed by a narrow group of special interests. It's a very small space. And that's why the comments, I mean, there was a time when the Herald, for a long time, it's now we have two editors, and this is my last thing I want to say. There was a time when it was difficult to write about Goa in the Herald. In our oldest, flagship newspaper, it was difficult to write about Goa. Other than a few accepted ways to write about it, they were too frightened to run anything else.
Can I just add to what I was saying? When I said that, what I meant to say is, that's why I gave the example of that child in the well doing 72 hours on prime time. The point is, did we want it? As a viewer, I didn't want it. But I was given that. And that is happening, I think, because of competition in the media. That's what I was talking about. That's the reason why I said we have lost the plot. Somewhere down the line, each newspaper and each channel is just running after who is breaking the news. Is what I sincerely feel. Okay, I know that everybody accuses Times of India of paid news and etc. etc. Yes, that is a part, and corporates, like you said, have created profit making as the primary goal as well. Right or wrong, I am not in a position to say that because I'm a part of that group. So I wouldn't comment on that. But still, as a journalist or even as a viewer, a reader, I feel that somewhere down the line, when I say we have lost the plot, I think that we, as the fourth estate together, all newspapers are not working towards a goal of creating awareness or something, but we are trying to, okay, I want to break the news, I want an exclusive interview, I want to do it exclusive. So the exclusive, breaking news is taking priority. So when you are talking about priority, I think that has become the priority.
Can I just interrupt over here? When you're saying we've lost the plot, one of the major things which I started the whole discussion with, social responsibility. Media has a major social responsibility. So, and and commercialization and being sabse pehle, sabse tez, it's losing its credibility.
That's what
now, can the media afford to lose its credibility? Because that is its only strength. And what is happening today?
We cannot afford to lose credibility.
But that is what is happening today. You are not watching only one TV channel. Everybody watches at least because you say in this TV channel, oh this, I don't think it's giving only half the news, or it's giving very biased news. So let's watch the other one. So most of us now watch 3-4 channels to get the exact picture. We read 4-5 newspapers to get actually just some substance of the news. So in a way, media is losing credibility. And I think that's a very dangerous trend that is happening. So what do you have to say?
Can I comment on this? I think some time back.
Could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Lakshman Pardhanani. I'm a retired person from England. Some time back, we had Dilip Patgaonkar over here, and he spoke about the Times of India justifying the fact that on that particular occasion, Dev Anand had been put on the front page of the Times.
Aishwarya Rai.
Well, Aishwarya Rai had been put on the front page. And he was giving the same sort of explanations that you've given this evening. The fact that, we are basically catering to what the public demand is. Now, I also disagree very strongly with the point this gentleman made about the sun and so forth. I think if you have lived in England as long as I have, then you wouldn't make the remarks that you made. Everybody knows, everyone who has lived in England knows that papers like the Sun or the Daily Mirror, they cater to a certain audience. But if you are looking for serious stuff, if you're looking for any serious discussion on whether it's politics or social events or social problems, then you read the Guardian or you read the Times. Sorry?
Or the Tribune.
Or the Herald Tribune. So to quote the Sun as an example, or Richard Murdoch as an example of what happened in England is, I think, very unfortunate. But to come back to what I was saying, I mean, I watch a lot of CNN, for example. I watch Al Jazeera television. Now, the one thing that these channels have in common is the fact that they have, all their programs have a very serious underbelly about them. Whereas in England, in India, if you read the Indian Express, you know, I mean, I can't say I have the same feeling. Or if you read the Times of India, I don't get the same feeling. And in that sense, I echo the points that Ms. Nandini Sahai made, that at the end of the day, the press has a responsibility to educate and to inform first and then to educate. Entertainment is there. Of course, we are an entertainment society, but that is not our prime objective in life. Sorry?
There is information happening. We are giving information. It is not that people are not giving information at all.
But it has been packaged as infotainment now. You see?
Let us go back to what Prakash said. I will agree with that. See, the whole thing is, in practice, we have to accept that Gandhi's time of depending on circulation, money, and stopping if no advertisement, we are not, today's, it will not be a reality. So let us accept it, commercial interest, everything. But having said that, as Nandini said, social responsibility is part of your, it is the core of your. Because your freedom of expression, what you are enjoying, it is on behalf of people. So your accountability, your response to their concerns is the priority that you cannot deny. From that point of view, if you say I give what people want, it is not your complete responsibility.
It's like that.
You have to give what people don't know what they want.
Yeah. It is
Because people are
yeah.
constitutional citizens of this country. They have their responsibilities, they have their obligations, they have their right, but somehow they are saying we are commercial consumers, and if I say yes you are commercial, so I am giving you commercial, I don't think you are fully doing accountability to yourself.
And that also goes for our television channels as well, not just the newspapers. If you look at, particularly if you look at NDTV, I feel quite let down when I watch them. I really do. You know, to some extent, CNN, IBN is a bit better, but nevertheless, you know, you cannot compare these channels with in terms of their seriousness, which says CNN or the BBC or Al Jazeera, for example. And why is that so?
I don't think you can compare CNN, BBC and Al Jazeera either, because I think Al Jazeera at the moment is a very good TV channel.
No, but all three of them, for whatever it's worth, all three of them, I mean, it's huge institutional biases. I mean, CNN invented the embedded reporter. BBC's
so
biases are legion, and Al Jazeera has gone, you know, very soft on, for instance, Bahrain, because you have the Qatari emirs who finance Al Jazeera to the tune of $1 billion a year. You know, don't want Bahrain to be shaken.
So, that's what I was coming to.
Giant bias.
When it comes to political
giant bias, Al Jazeera never says what's happening in Doha.
No, I was coming to that. I mean, in any case, you can't compare CNN, BBC, and Al Jazeera because Al Jazeera for certain.
No, I'm saying they have one thing in common, and that is they have a serious underbelly compared to the channels in India. That's
I actually think that Indian channels and Indian newspapers also have a very serious underbelly. I would not undermine our media. I do think that our media is very strong. I'm a huge supporter of our media. We go astray. Our point is not to run it down totally. Our point is to bring it back on track.
Yeah, but do that by action, not by talking. You know, do that by action, not by talking. You know, can you justify?
Well, by you talking about how wonderful all the Firang channels are, it doesn't help us, does it? So I'd rather talk about the positives also while pointing out the negatives. I am also somewhat familiar with, obviously not as much as you, with the papers in England, and I do think that while Guardian, and you didn't mention the Independent, but I think the Independent is an excellent paper, and they are read by a certain kind of people. The Daily Mirror and the Sun and the Mail, Daily Mail, whatever, they do have their constituencies and they do their job in a very good way, but that is not probably what you want to do. what you're looking for. Okay, so when you're looking for scandal, when you're looking for sensational news, you look at tabloids. When you're looking for certain, in fact, I think the best paper for quite a while now in England is not the Guardian or the Independent, but the Telegraph. Telegraph has actually, it is full of news and it is less biased. Guardian does have a liberal bias. The Independent is sort of going wonky. But if you're looking for news, then the Telegraph is probably the best paper
I
to
find the
look at.
Telegraph it's a bit conservative.
No, so, yeah, but it gives you news. So all I'm trying to say is that it depends on what you're looking for. And let's not confuse that media with Indian media. Let's limit ourselves to Indian media because that is our concern, and we are all concerned about social issues and where the media is going, because the media plays an extremely important role in our lives. And while we have a newspaper like the Hindu, which is trying to trying to be responsible, trying to be socially responsible, and trying to do the things that an informative media is supposed to do. It also has its own problems. I won't go into that right now, but if you look at it carefully, then you do know. I mean, with the Sri Lanka thing, with Jayalalitha and the DMK, I mean, if you're looking for bias, you can find it even with the best. All right. Times of India, unfortunately, being the leader of the tribe, will always get flack from us because because basically what Times of India does, the others try to follow. And thereafter there is the major problem. And then we say, that one started it, So Times of India, whatever you do, you can't win. But I must say this, that Times of India has now become much better than it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it had really become the pits. You couldn't read it. It was completely infotainment. But now it does give you news.
But coming now to I think the changing face of the newspaper, now we're getting news in real time. With internet being there, everybody's getting news. As soon as something happens, we all get it on our SMSs and our computers and everywhere. So where do you think now the newspaper is going? What do you think? Do you think the newspaper should change now? Because everybody
it has changed, don't you?
It has changed. It hasn't changed, or has it not? Let's just
it has changed.
How?
Well, in the first place, it went haywire, trying to change, because then it was like we were constantly talking about audience. What was it that we said? How many seconds of attention we had?
Yeah. 22 seconds.
So attention span. We have
22 seconds of attention span.
Yeah, we have to grab it by then, and we otherwise we've lost the reader. And with the shrinking attention span, the size of the news stories came down. We stopped the turn on the front page.
But I'm talking about the news.
500 to 600
Since you already got the news 24 hours earlier, what role do you think the newspaper plays?
That's exactly it. That is exactly it. Because at that time we were trying to look at the attention span and catering to it. Then we realized that no, we can't do it because everything in the newspaper is yesterday's news finally. So that is where the newspapers can they can do value addition, because they can actually get credible analysis.
And are you doing it? That's what I'm saying. Are you doing it?
I think a lot of it is being done. I don't belong to mainstream newspapers, but I think a lot of it is being done, and with thought, not the talking heads we see on TV. Because we see instant analysis on TV as well. We see the same thing on several channels, and a proliferation of channels doesn't mean a proliferation of ideas or choices, because we don't have a choice, because everything, we have the same thing on various channels. Yeah, it's because everybody is trying to copy the other. And unfortunately the same had happened with newspapers, but I think now slowly people are coming back to their own identity.
But all said and done, the printed word still has some kind of credibility and importance in a person's life. Newspaper mein padha hai.
So now the
even today,
I think if all newspapers today have a website, so do you think the printed newspaper does it have a future still?
Yes.
The Hindu has had one of the best websites, one of the first and one of the best even before Times of India website had become...
Hindu was the first website.
Yeah, and it was very good. But the Hindi circulation...
Has never been a thing.
No, I will tell you, even our personal. I get, now I get this weekly edition when it comes to Goa, I get it bit early in the morning. Otherwise, I used to get my paper in the afternoon. But I used to go on net for my edition Hindu. But till you get that physical paper, that satisfaction.
That is our generation.
Still, yeah.
What about the next generation?
I just wanted to,
younger ones.
this kind of ties back to gauging where we are with the Indian media. I'd like to look at two publications, both of which are brand new, both of which I think are setting standards quite high, and I would say both of them, I'm proud of them for being part of the Indian media. One is Mint, this new newspaper, right? First-rate newspaper. I've been writing for a little bit for Mint, and their fact-checking is extremely rigorous. The entire process is absolutely first-rate that you go through. And the product is a very, very good product, you know. So this, I think, and it's actually, it is a publication which, like the other one I want to cite, which is Caravan magazine. Both of these kind of are in between internet delivery mechanism or content. They match their content delivery via internet and via new media to their magazine, and they're both good at both of them. Caravan also is an absolutely first-rate publication. I would actually say Caravan at the moment is in the top 2 or 3 English language publications of its type anywhere in the world. I mean, it has to be. There's nothing else really, very few that you would compare to it other than the New Yorker and others. So that's one very healthy thing. Also, the thing that I wanted to say just about the reason why I brought up the UK example, why I do think it's relevant, is because in the UK what's happened is there was always this ecosystem of a certain kind of publication and quality broadsheets. What's happened in the last 20-25 years, particularly since the Fleet Street unions were broken, is you see the complete transformation of that media environment. You know, I mean, it's gone from one kind of creature to another. And by far the largest circulation publications are all tabloids now. I actually fear that happening here. I do think that is what's happening here. We're going.
It's gone now.
Yeah, it's going that direction. You know, I looked at and our own independent media brands are being subverted, and they're becoming kind of, you know, these generic content delivery vehicles, and we're receiving the same garbage. Over here, for instance, in the Goa papers, Paris Hilton shows up all the time. I've never understood that. You know, why does Paris Hilton in the Goa paper? I don't know. You know, it's completely incomprehensible. So this is my own.
I think we had the last week. Paris Goa papers, what, sir?
Paris Hilton
Shows up all the time in the Goa papers. I'm treating this as a symptom of, you know, some serious malaise in terms of our content generation, that we are somehow devoting content inches to Paris Hilton.
Can I? Yeah.
Sorry.
No, she had her hand up.
Yeah, sure.
I'm Annabelle Ferreira. I'm a social activist, and I think what I'd like to really expose here is that the social responsibility of media is totally lacking as far as the Goan press, written media is concerned. Because there have been occasions when I've taken up social issues very strongly, which expose the failings of the government and harassment of the common man, where, I mean, the newspaper has refused to print those. In spite of me speaking to the editors and to the other reporters, they have certainly refused to print those issues. Now, of course, I agree that maybe, you know, the print media lives on the, I mean, it's like bread and butter for them as far as advertising, and as far as the local governments support them with their advertising, they will just not look at any issues which come from a social activist which is exposing the government. Now presently there's been, I mean, okay, there's been a lot of scams. The newspapers have taken them at full length, they've exposed the scam, the mining scam, which is tremendous, and it is far greater than what has happened in Karnataka. The other big issue which is going to come up is on the IT sector. The IT sector is a very strong sector which creates jobs for youth. And I think there was a study done by NASSCOM 10 years ago, between 1990 and 1999, with all the data, selecting about 11 sites in Goa
to create 100,000 jobs for Goan youth. I'm afraid that this thing has been shelved, and again there is controversy. And when I raised this issue with a newspaper who had written against the IT sector being a force in as a job generation, I'm afraid that newspapers are not doing their job, because I think as far as issues are concerned, social issues, there is also this very important issue of creation of jobs. And I would like the newspapers who are present here to take up this issue on the creation of jobs for youth, which I am also exposing through some other articles of mine. Thank you.
What she said.
I think
Sir, can you please introduce yourself?
I am John Eric Gomes. I write a lot in the, I'm John Eric Gomes.
Yes.
I write a lot in the papers. In fact, I've been doing it in Goa for the last 20 years. And I would like to take up what you said, which I endorse 100 times. Because what I'm scared of is censorship. There's one paper here that says stand up and speak up. When you stand up and speak up, it's shut down and shut up. Because I write a lot of letters to the editor. You'll find my name in almost every day somewhere. It's always censored. That's why I have to write all the papers, and then some people have a thing that if it comes in one paper, they won't put it in next. So if I don't write it all, what I want to say never comes out, because they'll change the heading, they'll change something, and finally what I want to say is not there at all. I don't know why they can't say that we are not responsible.
Because they have somebody called a letters editor, and you would be putting him out of a job if he didn't do that.
No, I'm very experienced. I write, I bear in mind all these points. I am not rude. I'm very diplomatic. I'm polite. But the facts they don't print. And if there is an article there by a prominent chap who writes, then I'll come up with facts and I'll go against it. I'll say for the following reason. They won't put it. I mean, you want to put your own stuff. I mean, you don't want anybody to say anything against it. This is what's going on in Goa. I have told you that I find this is very dangerous, because it's like censorship. You don't allow this to come through, and then the government and all should see they should be aware of what is coming through, what the people feel. No, it's only what the newspapers feel.
So because this is where, if the newspapers start having their own agendas, then where is the freedom of speech and freedom of expression that we're talking about? So, and again, because of this, where is the common man? Are his issues being written about? Where does the common man go? I mean, we talk about, I think the major dividing factor is the media, which is divided India into India and Bharat. You know, where they don't write about Bharat. The 80% of the population which lives in the villages, which does not have drinking water, does not have sanitation, does not have schools, does not have proper roads. Are his problems written about? Are their problems written about? Where are those? So, that's when we're talking about, again, let's get back to that. You know, what is the media agenda?
Simple. Public-oriented content has become byproduct rather than the main product. That is what exactly what they are saying.
So I just want to
much extent, it's not that across.
Yeah, this mic is very curious. It doesn't always work. You can hear me anyway, huh? So what I'm, the problem, it's all right. Everybody can hear me.
No,
it's working now. So basically, Nandini, what you've been talking about is absolutely true, and we have all been complaining about it since the 1990s. Okay, what I am happy to point out now is that things have indeed changed for the better. And I think you might disagree, many people might disagree, but if you look at media carefully, you'll see that there is more reporting of the development issues. There is more reporting of the malnutrition. Absolutely, a lot of these things, what we called pro-poor reporting is back. You might disagree.
No, it is there, but is it sustained? isn't a sustained reporting. We're not talking about event-based reporting. Somewhere a death occurs, then we start writing about malnutrition. Somewhere a woman is raped, a Dalit woman is raped, then we start talking about the untouchability.
That is always the case. That is always the case.
Where is the sustained? Where is the sustained?
Let us put it in context. I agree with you, but with this, I will tell you. Let us take a simple case of Goa, and these people, it is interesting point I want to say. Goa had in English.
This doesn't work.
In English, we had 1 or 2 English newspapers. In Marathi, we had 2 or 3 newspapers. But the situation, 2 newspapers. But the situation was, if in English, one particular paper did not carry your news, it was not a news in Goa. If in Marathi did not carry your news or whatever news, it was not news in Goa. This was the situation. From there, today, because of this corporatization and commercialization and competition, today, as I said, we have around 8 papers in vernacular. We have 4 in English. By sheer because of this competition, as that gentleman said, he can write to 4 English papers. Then somewhere at least it appears. Completely it was not appearing. This situation we have gone through. Today may not be, as I said, it is a byproduct. Public interest is byproduct. But because of competition, papers, even newspapers face competition from electronic media like in Goa. That is why many things which otherwise some papers would never touch. For instance, there is one leading paper here which never touched any environmental issues. Only after Times of India came here, advantage for the people was that paper started using environmental news. So because of this competitive, this also by default, this is a public gain. So this has definitely happened. Content has increased not because papers love public issues, but because they have to. Now, for example, these mining issues. Goa's ownership of newspapers locally was completely dominated by mining houses. But slowly over a period of time, what has happened is most of the outstation vernacular papers, they came here, other groups and all, so that mining, the stranglehold of mining on the ownership of newspapers and has gone. That is why you see a lot of the Shah Commission and all in local newspapers. Otherwise, in good old days, I remember many incidents or accidents which took place in mining areas. Even in the assembly, it was difficult to get discussions, and next day, never it used to reflect in newspapers. So, elderly people will this with me. This was the situation. So, let us also accept that by default, because of this competitive media scene, definitely we have choice. But again, the point is, I think that people, we simply feel that too much of cynicism, I don't agree with that. What we want is, people also should be more aware. You are not just consumer of this newspaper. You are a full-fledged citizen. Be assertive, as that gentleman said, he sent for 3-4 papers. Somewhere it appears in these. So people also have to be more this. If you consider yourself a mere consumer, you will get a consumer product. If you are a citizen, you assert yourself, you will definitely assert yourself.
It's not. It's absolutely
not fair. Why? But there is a newspaper. It is a newspaper which has called the reader a consumer, and the paper itself is a product. I mean, we are not.
When the term media product first was bandied about, we shrunk in horror, thinking, God, but I mean, how long would it be?
Because I think we started the trend of calling it a product.
A media product. And then you also started the trend of saying selling newspapers is not the same as selling toothpaste. I mean, what exactly is the difference then? First you categorize us as, media product and consumers thereof, and then you say there's a difference between toothpaste and...
I think there is another important point that I want to bring out, because I want to know from you all about investigative reporting. Because, for example, we have River Princess around here. I came to know, and I'm from the Navy, I'm ex-Navy. I came to know about River Princess from outside media, outside, but we have never done any investigative reporting. So, what is the thing about investigative reporting? It costs too much money or whatever, but there's no investigative reporting worth the name.
Absolutely.
No, I think it is happening. It is not completely not happening. It might have reduced. But all over India, I think it is still happening, investigative. That's the reason maybe once in a couple of months, once in 3 months, you do get something. This is the investigative report, we have found this, probably a tehka.
With RTI coming in,
it has started happening. And I agree with her that we have seen bad scenes, but we are improving. We were bad, but we are improving. I think everybody is trying, maybe like Prakash said, because of the competition or whatever it is. But we are trying. It is not that bad. We are not just giving entertainment. We are not just giving things. Yes, probably, yes, we are giving entertainment, but I think whether it is Times of India or whether it is Indian Express.
Indian Express does not give entertainment.
Nobody expects, reasonable people at least, nobody expects the newspaper people to be more pious than the rest of society. And can I finish? And if the rest of society is money oriented or moves in a certain direction, one cannot blame the newspapers for also looking after themselves. But what I say is, and I have again the example of abroad, see, in front of me, when Lord Thompson of Canada, for example, was financing the Times of London, see, or when Tiny Rowland, again an Englishman, was financing the Observer in England. Now these two newspapers, they didn't make any profit at all. And what I'm really urging you to consider, that's all I'm asking, I'm urging you to consider, is that some of you people should be prepared to raise your head above the parapet and say, look, we are going to pioneer. We are going to do, as the gentleman said, some investigative reporting on a regular basis. We are going to look at social issues on a regular basis. Not once only, when an incident happens. That is what I'm appealing for.
One more thing, you see, for India Today, for instance, one of the biggest successes have come from a corporate magazine like India Today in the 80s. The way it grew up to about, the way it grew up to about 4 lakhs in hardly about 1 decade. It was a big success. And as Arun Puri said, most journalists write for other journalists. I write for the reader. And that's why they were quite successful. So similarly, I feel this thing about, thinking that corporates are not the best of people, and that's the sense I got from this discussion, that corporates are the best. Prince of Paris Hilton to Goa. One thing is, Vivek, that we have become a globalized society. We may not believe it, but quite frankly, a Steve Jobs or Paris Hilton is far more readable than maybe Digambar Kamat. So that's it. So you've got to expect that.
No, and I think what Antara said, that it caters to everybody. Like you said, somebody who wants to pick up a Herald Tribune or an Independent or a Telegraph will pick up that, and somebody who wants to pick up a Mirror or a Sun will pick up that. So in the same way, I think, talking about Times of India, whoever wants to pick up serious news picks up a Times of India. Whoever wants to read about Paris Hilton or Kristen or anybody else, anybody wants to pick up a Goa Times, they pick up a Goa Times. So it is practically catering to the larger picture, to everybody, from you to your granddaughter. So everybody picks up whatever it is. But yes, we do have the responsibility of creating awareness. It can be how to deal with the YouTube. That is also creating awareness. Whether you are watching porn on the YouTube or you are watching news on the YouTube.
Can I have the...
They don't have, by the way, they don't have porn.
I have been noticing that most of the discussion is around media, and when you say media, it's English media. We also have regional media here, Marathi and Konkan paper, though it's only one probably. And I must mention that, as he said, profit making is the motive for commercial. This is Sunapran, the only Konkani daily that comes out in Devanagari script here, and with a very little circulation. But yet, I would say, it's, though it is owned by a corporate house, still the editor or the staff has a lot of freedom as compared to others. Prakash also contributes to this. And I would say this serves, rather than a newspaper, it serves as a newspaper, which is necessary, I think, these days. And all the channels which we view also, they are more of newspaper rather than news channels, news channels. And I think what we expect from the newspapers or the media at large is the other views, which may be contradicting each other, but then they should be channelized in such a way that it formulates the public mind. Particularly now, let me come to the biased media, which we notice these days, particularly when it comes to communal violence or communal incidents that happen in Goa. Goa was far above, communal feelings, I would say. And you all speak so, we also proudly announced that in Goa the harmony is exemplary and all that. It's true. But then it was, I'm very sad to say that the time is changing so fast that we have to be very cautious, and I think media is to play a very important role in this regard, is to see that Goa retains its fabric, the secular fabric, and that is precisely where I feel the media should play a role in becoming a newspaper, so that media rather, so that people get a clear picture of what is happening here. Particularly recently, I must mention about some 3 or 4 years back, Sanatan is a samstha, which is again a fundamental organization in Goa, which has a base in Goa. It's very sad. Goa never had it before, and they carried out a blast in Goa, and because the political might is behind them, no investigation is going on. So far, nothing is happening. People are worried, but then, and they are growing in strength. And it's very sad, I think.
I will give you an interesting insight in this. As you mentioned, this newspaper. Try and understand this. No, this is
not working.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Try, you can hear it. No, try and understand it. Till this paper's circulation is around 3,000 or 4,000, you feel that editor and all of us writers will get this. Moment it changes 15,000 in Goa, this is the problem. That is why I say that what you were saying in the morning, the existence of these alternate options. So this is very important, and they are opinion makers and all, till they are not touched.
Yeah.
Till they are what? Till they are like this, 3,000 or 4,000. Moment they become 15,000,
until they are insignificant.
Then what she says starts happening left and right. Then issues are not taken. We as contributors, then we are getting this kind of these messages not to write these issues. So this is why this alternate, and because of too much of this commercialization, these alternates themselves, they are dying. That is the concern, real concern for our society, because we had this tradition of newspapers. They are dying in this.
Yes. Just 2 points. One is that I think the newspapers, the industry has already paid a price in terms of, in Goa, losing its credibility. Because not many people read the editorials. I used to be a regular reader of the editorials, but I don't even look at the left in the column at all. People take all front page reportage with a pinch of salt because they suspect that there is some kind of bias somewhere or the other. So they will read 3 or 4 papers. They will try to get the different angles projected by all the various editors and the reporters and keep that in mind. They will go through the local news quickly because they need to know what's happening, who's murdered, who died in an accident, and what's happening, fair price, whatever, rate, prices have gone up and all that. They'll go to the sports page, they'll go through the advertisements, classifieds, and that serves the newspaper. And that's the purpose, the newspaper serves them. And then it goes into the Rati, and it vanishes from there. So they have wisened up. People are not dumb. They have figured out that you have to take everything with a pinch of salt now. Nothing is the holy gospel truth from the newspapers. The second point is, we were speaking about short attention spans and we want everything fast and lead over everyone else. When we watch television and we see that 9/11 towers, I mean, I saw that live, the second plane coming crash, it was very shocking. The next day, the advantage that newspapers have over all these TV channels and all this flash reporting is that you had some 6 hours or 8 hours or some time to do a very measured, sober reflection on what took place, and then place it very objectively with accurate information and authentic reporting to the reader. We as newspaper readers have always longed for that, and that's what we look up to print newspapers for. And if the newspapers will not give us that authentic, clear, sober reporting, reflecting on the event that took place, on the news that took place, then it has got no more value than that television flash that took place for us. That's all. And to earn the trust of the reader again will probably take another 5-6 years. But still, sporadically you'll hear someone say, you know, yesterday's editorial, read that. It was a very good piece of work. So they are still keeping their eyes and ears open. If there's a good piece of reporting somewhere, they will recommend it to others and people go and read that, which means there's still hope, there's still aspirations of people. It's up to the newspaper industry to deliver it. If it doesn't, we will still read it, scan it, trash it.
You know, there's something that I would just like to, because basically, Jose, what you were talking about was loss of credibility of newspapers, right? And what I'd like to mention here is the recent Supreme Court judgment on how, you know, a lot of you must know about it. The Supreme Court, about a couple of weeks ago, ordered that they could stop the reporting of a criminal case, not stop, but postpone on a case-by-case basis. They might just say, no, you can't report on this. It was in response to the Sahara thing. Yeah, they on a regular basis, you wouldn't get to see the, you wouldn't...
Anything which is in trial?
Not anything. Some, and they will decide which ones. And who will decide? The accused will decide, and the judge will allow. And why is it necessary? The Supreme Court told us why. It was apparently a neutralizing tool that was necessary for the proper functioning of society. Now, if we have come to a point where the media needs to be neutralized for the good of society, then there is something seriously wrong with us. And if the courts actually says it, not just thinks it but says it, then there is something seriously wrong with the third estate as well. Now, what was the whole point about? Why is this? Because earlier there was a question of setting down guidelines for the media for reporting of criminal cases. Why? Because on the one hand there was freedom of media, freedom of speech, Article 19(1)(a, which is freedom of speech, and on the other hand, because of the trial by media, the right of the accused to a fair trial was being jeopardized. That, according to the Article 21 of the Constitution, needs to be protected. Therefore, to balance Article 19(1)(a) and Article 21, media needs to be neutralized. Now, this is bizarre, you know. I mean, and we are to be blamed for it because we have pushed ourselves to that point. The whole guidelines thing came up because of the Arushi murder case, the way it was reported, which was terrible. I mean, I remember the day that Arushi's father, Dr. Rajesh Talwar, was not assaulted, arrested. The day he was arrested, it was May 2008, I've forgotten the date, but that same day, 21 people were killed in police firing, 21 Gujars in Rajasthan who were protesting for, who were basically fighting for scheduled tribe or scheduled caste rights, and they were killed in police firing, 21. And that it was also the day that farm loan rates really spiked up,
yeah.
And oil prices.
81 farmers committed suicide.
Not that day, but in that
next day.
But exactly that same week. But that day, these had happened. Farm loans had, the farm loan rates had shot up, and 21 Gujars demanding their rights had been killed in police firing. What were the banner headlines? Murderer, father did it, murder most foul. You know, and everything was focused only on Arushi, sex, father sex, daughter's possible sex, etc. And I mean, this is what happened to the media. This is exactly my point. Yeah. So the fact is that media has become extremely bizarre, and where we need to think of guidelines. Wherever there are, when there's a question of court saying no, we need media guidelines, immediately we who are associated with the media say, no, 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 we need self-regulation. Who is this self? You know, I mean, media is not a monolithic body. Media, in the media there are journalists who take the flak from people. Then there are the owners who pay the money. Then there are other, you know, there's this whole, the corporate back end, the actual working people. I mean, there is no one self to the media, so there is no self-regulation which is simple. We have to look at it as a complex situation, and we have to try and rectify the situation in some way, instead of just thinking, nay, everything is dead and gone, neutralize the media for the good of society.
That's what I'm saying. So if the media does not pull up its socks fast.
Well, how would you legislate that? I'm just wondering, is there an example anywhere in the world of a, what do you say, not legislation, regulation. Is there some form of a regulation where you can regulate that you put those stories?
There should be media guidelines that
Press Council has put up a lot of guidelines. It has no teeth. Unfortunately,
Unfortunately,
the media does not want. Antara, you know as well as anybody else, media does not want any regulation.
No,
Press Council has tried again and again. We have media guidelines. I work personally on media guidelines. We have media ethics. We have everything under the sun.
We need to. You see, one more thing. There are already existing laws. There's the law of defamation. There's a law of slander, law of libel. If you want to haul up the media, haul it over the coals, you can do it. But people don't want to do it. That is what we need to do. Media guidelines, make them, I mean, just make them proper. See that we give the Press Council some teeth. The Press Council has no teeth. It sits there and says, no, 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 what you're doing is wrong.
The media itself does not want to give Press Council any teeth.
Naturally, nobody wants to be controlled by anybody. So the media, but we have to devise a way by which the media needs to follow certain guidelines. And if it doesn't, then either through the Press Council or through some other media conglomerate or guild. Exactly. So there are many options, but they need to be. I mean, these are things that need to be actually finally taken to court. Otherwise, it won't work.
Isn't Justice Karju sort of recommending some guidelines? I heard him.
We've always been recommending guidelines.
No, more recently. I'm talking about more recently. I've heard him on television speak about it. That they are very seriously contemplating some guidelines.
Justice
electronic media,
That was just for electronic media because Press Council already exists for print media. There's nothing for electronic media.
The abuse in the electronic media is in fact a lot worse than the press, because I mean, when you think of 7/11, 3 days of television reporting, I mean, it was crass, terrible.
Anyway, as I think we should not lose hope. There's still hope, as we said. There's always hope. So and media plays a very, very vital role in this country, especially where it's a developing country, and we need to know that is happening. So on this optimistic and not so optimistic note.
Since you mentioned about the role of the media, I would like to specifically know about what happened post-Gujarat post-Gujarat. Gujarat. What happened was the English media, or rather national media, was accusing Narendra Modi and the violence, and they were acting, and the secular media was on the contrary, praising Narendra Modi's law and order and everything. How do you see this? What line is correct?
There is a phenomenon called paid news.
No, this is not paid news. This is not true. This was actually brought out by the Editors Guild report. When the Editors Guild actually made I think end of 2002 they came up with that report, or early 2003, I can't remember, and where they very clearly showed how the English language, which was evident to all of us who were actually following it, but we didn't have access to the Gujarati media so much, and they clearly showed how Gujarati media was not just not critical, but actually supportive and egging them on.
The Gujarat Samachar actually.
What happens, it is Gujarati versus Urdu. We don't understand it.
It is, I think, more the local power. It is local power.
Same thing happens anywhere. For national media plays its own different angles.
When I said paid, not paid by individuals, but paid by the state.
No, it was not paid by the state. It was just the sheer mass Gujarati feeling.
Yeah.
It's just, excuse my friend, sucking up to the government, that's all it is. So it's nothing, no, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if no money came into it.
So, thank you very much.
This is more of this, I mean,
When I started out correcting copy which said, in train accident happened, five men including 3 women were killed. You get used to all of that, you keep on doing it.
When you're on the desk, but then here the desk is like this. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
another small thing just to
Why is International Center not mentioned? Give us a reason.
No, Kamat Academy is not mentioned, even International School is not mentioned. And that is because we have the media net rules that we are not allowed to mention because unless and because it is giving publicity. And then we come up to the best part of the whole deal is the paid write-ups which the Media Times of India has started and which Hindustan Times has followed. And Hindu is planning to follow. And so we can get into that. Again in this debate.
I will cut off my right hand the day Hindu starts.
That's what Antara was.
What's so holy
Antara was thinking when we started.
We could have done it by now. We could have done it by now.
Let's not put let's not put the Hindu on some pedestal. Let's not put
What is wrong with that still? It had to do it if it done it.
I mean,
January 2013, I'm telling you the dates when it is starting.
No, but if a function,
No, anyway.
Let's
never
not get
mind,
into
yeah,
it.
Let's not get into it.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
nobody should be, no media house or no publication should be on the pedestal. Everybody should be on trial all the time.
We would have done it by now.
Look at Tehelka
That is
taking
not
a million,
true.
Tehelka
I
taking a
think
million
you don't know
dollar.
what's happening. See, I
$1 million
don't,
phone?
you don't, I think you don't know what's happening
$1 million.
inside, you know, that is,
Yeah, we're just finding out.
Think first.
that makes it look much rosier than it actually is. I mean,
On
I'm
this
not
very
talking
happy positive note. So, thank you so much. I think we've had a very interesting and an interactive discussion. And, well, we've come to the same conclusion that the media has social responsibilities. It has a major role to play in developing society and educating and informing and also entertaining. But in what sequence that comes in, I think that's where they have to check their priorities and do a reality check. So, Victory, thank you very much for joining in this discussion.